A truck had been sitting for days inside the parking garage at the Albuquerque International Sunport when employees reported a strong odor coming from the vehicle.
I think it smelled like decomp. I could smell something.
An unusual and concerning smell that prompted them to alert authorities. Officers responding to what appeared to be an abandoned truck opened it, only to find 4 decomposing bodies concealed inside. The shocking discovery immediately transformed the situation into a homicide investigation, expanding a local inquiry that now spanned both Albuquerque and Grants, New Mexico. In Grants, 19-year-old Matthew Miller had recently been reported missing after his grandmother contacted police when he stopped answering calls and failed to return home, raising serious concerns about his safety and well-being. Weeks before the airport discovery, police in Grants received the missing person report for Matthew Miller after his family realized they had not heard from him and noted that his absence was not typical behavior. Investigators began looking into Matthew's recent activities and learned that he had been seen in the days before his disappearance spending time with Jennifer Lannon and others connected to her. Detectives located Matthew's Chevrolet Colorado parked near a residence associated with Jennifer and her estranged husband, Sean Lannon. The truck was locked and appeared to have been left there for several days. Inside, officers found personal belongings, clothing, and damaged cell phones, all of which added to the concern that Matthew had been involved in a dangerous situation prior to vanishing. Surveillance footage from a nearby residence showed Matthew's truck arriving at the Lannon residence on January 26, 2021. Later, footage showed Sean Lannon driving the truck away from the property. He returned on foot, and notably, Matthew was not seen leaving the residence at any point. This raised further suspicions about what had happened inside the home during that period. At the same time, Jennifer Lannon had also been reported missing. Her disappearance was reported by Sean Lannon, who told authorities she had left on her own. Investigators soon realized that Matthew Miller, Jennifer Lannon, and others connected to them had vanished within days of each other, suggesting a link between their disappearances and raising the urgency of the investigation. Detectives interviewed Sean Lannon. He acknowledged driving Matthew's truck, but gave explanations that did not resolve the inconsistencies between his statements and the surveillance footage. Authorities continued examining phone data, vehicle movements, and witness accounts, which led them to additional names, including Justin Ma and Leonie Calzada, who were also reported missing around the same time, further complicating the case. On March 5, 2021, Albuquerque police located the Nissan Sentra inside the airport parking structure. Inside the vehicle were the bodies of Matthew Miller, Jennifer Lannon, Justin Ma, and Randall Apostolon. The remains were in advanced stages of decomposition, indicating that the victims had been dead for some time. Authorities determined that the deaths were homicides, confirming that the case had escalated into a multi-victim murder investigation. Investigators connected Sean Lannon to the vehicle and began building a broader case against him. Evidence indicated that he had transported the bodies to the airport garage weeks earlier. Search warrants were executed at properties associated with him in both Grants and Albuquerque. During these searches, detectives recovered firearms and other evidence linking him directly to the killings. As the investigation expanded, authorities learned that Lannon had also traveled to New Jersey around the same period. There, another victim, Gary Hergert, had been killed. Law enforcement agencies in New Mexico and New Jersey coordinated their efforts as they examined Lannon's movements across state lines, working to establish a timeline of the killings. In March 2021, Sean Lannon was arrested in Missouri after a multi-state search. He was charged in New Mexico with multiple counts of murder related to the deaths discovered at the airport. Prosecutors later detailed that Jennifer Lannon had been killed first, followed by the others over a span of days in January 2021. In 2024, Sean Lannon pleaded guilty in New Mexico to the murders of Jennifer Lannon, Matthew Miller, Justin Ma, and Randall Apostolon. He also pleaded guilty in New Jersey in connection with the killing of Gary Hergert. The plea agreements resulted in consecutive life sentences, ensuring that he would remain in prison for the remainder of his life. The discovery at the airport closed the missing persons investigation into Matthew Miller, but it opened a wider examination of how the killings were carried out and concealed across multiple jurisdictions. Authorities confirmed that the victims had been shot and that their bodies had been stored before being transported to the parking garage, a detail that highlighted the calculated nature of the crimes. What began as a missing person case in Grants became a homicide investigation spanning 2 states, culminating in guilty pleas that brought legal resolution to the deaths of 5 individuals and revealed the extent of the violence and premeditation involved. Following the discovery of the 4 bodies in the Chevrolet Colorado at the Albuquerque International Sunport, investigators turned their attention back to Grants, New Mexico, to examine the connections between the missing individuals and the properties associated with Sean and Jennifer Lannon. Detectives began canvassing the neighborhoods surrounding the Lannon residence on Kingman Avenue, reviewing security footage from neighbors' homes, local businesses, and traffic cameras in an effort to reconstruct the movements of the occupants during the critical days leading up to the murders. Multiple neighbors provided footage capturing vehicles arriving and departing, including the Chevrolet Colorado and a red Dodge Dakota that had been noted at the Lannon property on January 26th. The footage established the presence of the truck and the movements of Sean Lannon immediately prior to and after the disappearances. Investigators also obtained property records and tenant histories for the residents. They learned that the Lannons had recently been involved in disputes with a landlord regarding unpaid rent, eviction proceedings, and removal of personal property from the house. These records provided context for the presence of Sean Lannon and other associates at the residence in late January. Police executed search warrants at the property and recovered personal effects, firearms, electronic devices, and evidence of movement consistent with the concealment of items prior to the discovery of the truck at the airport. Items collected included clothing and tools that would later be examined for forensic evidence. At the same time, detectives focused on the missing persons report for Matthew Miller. They traced his cell phone data, financial transactions, and interactions with friends and associates in Grants, noting patterns of activity in the days before his disappearance. Investigators confirmed that Matthew had last been seen entering the Lannon residence on January 26th, and that he was not seen leaving. Further analysis revealed connections between Matthew and Jennifer Lannon, along with their mutual associations with Justin Ma and Leonie Calzada. Investigators determined that these individuals had been in close proximity during the critical period, and that their disappearances were likely linked. The investigative team expanded their efforts to include multi-jurisdiction coordination. Albuquerque, Grants, and federal law enforcement agencies shared information regarding vehicle tracking, digital records, and surveillance data. Phone records showed that Sean Lannon's devices had traveled between New Mexico and New Jersey in the weeks following the disappearances. Investigators in New Jersey confirmed that a homicide victim named Gary Hergert had been killed in circumstances consistent with the pattern observed in New Mexico. Cell phone and location data placed Sean Lannon near Hergert in the period before his death. Authorities began building a timeline connecting the movements of Sean Lannon across state lines, establishing a chain of locations linking him to multiple victims. Detectives interviewed witnesses with connections to the Lannons, Justin Ma, and Leonie Calzada. Information provided by these witnesses confirmed the presence of Sean Lannon at the Lannon residence, as well as his transport of vehicles and items associated with the missing individuals. Witness statements corroborated the presence of the Chevrolet Colorado and its subsequent transport to Albuquerque. Investigators used these accounts to further establish the timeline of events leading to the discovery of the bodies at the airport. Evidence collected during the search of the Lannon residence included firearms, electronic devices, clothing, and personal items. Forensic specialists examined these items for fingerprints, DNA, and traces of gunshot residue. Investigators determined that the firearms recovered matched ballistics evidence from the victims. Analysis of digital devices provided insight into communications, locations, and associations among Sean Lannon, Jennifer Lannon, and the other missing individuals. As the investigation continued, detectives identified additional persons of interest connected to Sean Lannon, including Daniel Lemos and Kelly Dotto. Witness statements and surveillance data indicated that both had interacted with Sean Lannon in the days following the disappearances and may have been involved in the concealment or movement of items related to the investigation. Police sought to interview these individuals and verify statements regarding their involvement or knowledge of the crimes. Investigators reviewed travel records, vehicle registrations, and social media activity to establish patterns and connections between all missing individuals. They confirmed that multiple vehicles had been used to transport people and property associated with the victims. Digital evidence revealed that Sean Lannon had coordinated movements with other individuals in the days following the disappearances, including trips to and from New Jersey. These findings were integrated into the case file to support multi-state charges. Detectives also examined financial records. Transactions and bank account activity indicated that Sean Lannon and others had accessed funds in New Mexico and New Jersey during the period immediately after the disappearances. Investigators cross-referenced these transactions with movements and locations obtained from surveillance and digital evidence. The financial data contributed to the timeline establishing Sean Lannon's presence in key locations connected to the victims. Throughout March and April 2021, Albuquerque and Grants investigators continued compiling evidence from multiple sources. Forensic examination confirmed that all 4 bodies in the airport vehicle had been shot before being stored in the Chevrolet Colorado. Authorities collected ballistic evidence linking recovered firearms from the Lannon residence to the deaths. Investigators confirmed that the placement of the bodies in boxes and the transport to Albuquerque was part of a deliberate effort to conceal the murders. Coordination between New Mexico and New Jersey law enforcement identified Sean Lannon as the common link in all cases. In New Jersey, investigators confirmed that the killing of Gary Hergert involved similar methods and that cell phone data placed Lannon at the scene. In the days before the death, authorities confirmed that Sean Lannon's travel between states coincided with the murders, supporting prosecution efforts across jurisdictions. In March 2021, Sean Lannon was located and arrested in Missouri. Authorities executed arrest warrants related to the deaths of Matthew Miller, Jennifer Lannon, Justin Ma, and Randall Apostolon in New Mexico. Subsequent interviews and evidence collection supported the charges filed in both New Mexico and New Jersey. Prosecutors filed multiple counts of murder, presenting evidence including forensic findings, surveillance footage, digital records, and witness statements that established Lannon's involvement in the killing and concealment of the bodies. The investigation continued through 2021, 2022, and 2023, with authorities documenting all movements, actions, and communications of Sean Lannon in connection to the murders. All evidence was verified through multiple sources to ensure factual accuracy. Investigators coordinated closely across jurisdictions, confirming connections between the victims and the suspect, reconstructing the timeline of events, and examining forensic findings to confirm causes of death and methods of concealment. By the time authorities completed their multi-state investigation, the full scope of the crimes was clear. Sean Lannon had been connected to the deaths of Matthew Miller, Jennifer Lannon, Justin Ma, Randall Apostolon, and Gary Hergert. Surveillance footage, digital evidence, forensic analysis, and witness accounts all pointed to his actions. The Chevrolet Colorado found at the Albuquerque airport contained the remains of 4 victims, and physical evidence linked him directly to the murders and their concealment. Investigators confirmed the sequence of movements, the transport of vehicles, and his travel to New Jersey in connection with the 5th victim. Court filings in New Mexico and New Jersey presented detailed evidence, including autopsy reports confirming that all victims had been shot. Investigators documented the transport of the bodies, the concealment in boxes, and the placement in the vehicle at the airport. Digital records trace Sean Lannon's communications, locations, and interactions with multiple associates, corroborating witness statements. Ballistic evidence recovered from his residence matched the firearms used in the killings. Investigators maintained strict factual records, ensuring all charges were supported by verifiable evidence. In March 2021, Sean Lannon was apprehended in Missouri. Following his arrest, authorities executed search warrants on multiple properties linked to him, collecting additional evidence to support charges in both states. Law enforcement agencies from New Mexico and New Jersey coordinated to compile a single investigative file that documented all known movements, interactions, and actions of Lannon in relation to the victims. Each piece of evidence was cross-referenced with surveillance, digital tracking, forensic testing, and witness testimony. By 2024, legal proceedings concluded with guilty pleas. In New Mexico, Sean Lannon admitted to the murders of Matthew Miller, Jennifer Lannon, Justin Ma, and Randall Apostolon. In New Jersey, he pleaded guilty to the killing of Gary Hergert. The agreements resulted in consecutive life sentences, ensuring he would remain in custody for the remainder of his life. Prosecutors confirmed that the evidence, including forensic and digital records, clearly established his responsibility for all 5 deaths. The investigation brought resolution to families who had been searching for answers. Authorities confirmed the timelines of disappearance, movements, and deaths. Surveillance footage, forensic testing, and digital evidence provided a complete account of events, and the guilty pleas removed the need for extended trial proceedings. Investigators documented all actions of Sean Lannon from the time of the disappearances to his arrest, creating a factual record of the murders and their investigation. The case also reinforced the importance of cross-jurisdiction coordination. Law enforcement agencies in New Mexico, New Jersey, and Missouri worked together to track movements, collect evidence, and confirm connections across multiple locations. Each step, from the initial missing persons report to the discovery of bodies in Albuquerque, contributed to building a complete factual account of the events. Authorities confirmed that the deaths had been premeditated, carried out with firearms, and deliberately concealed. Today, the case stands as an example of thorough investigative work. If you want to follow more true crime cases like this, hear detailed investigations, and understand how law enforcement solves complex cases, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates.